Jake Davis did things that don't necessarily appear on the stat sheet, but truly when you think about the definition of a valuable player, if you take Jake Davis off of this 2024 Sporting Kansas City team, I mean, you thought the season was bad as it is. I mean, it's noticeably worse without a guy like Jake Davis on this team. He makes this team absolutely better when he's on the field.
Thanks for listening to KC Sports Network, proudly presented by Emprise Bank. If you're thinking about starting a business or know someone who is, check out Emprise Bank's SBA loans. It's always good to know your options, and they can be your partner in possible.
What's going on, my friends? And
howdy.
To another episode of No Other Pod. I'm Jimmy, along with my good buddy Daniel Kooser. Dan, no Sporting KC soccer to talk about this week, but we'll figure out something to make this episode fun.
Listen, not a lot of MLS in general. So, I mean, there's you take those international breaks, everyone gets a little time of rest. You know who doesn't rest? These guys.
Right.
No rest for the handsome, is what I say.
There you go. Yeah, we'll there's a couple Sporting KC things to talk about this week. There's Sporting KC season awards that were announced that we can touch on and see if we agree, disagree, etc. There were some there's a game this weekend to preview. Did we talk? We didn't talk about the season awards last week, did we? I don't remember when they launched. No. Okay, good. I'm just making sure. I know they had the ballots out in the press box for people to vote on.
So did you vote?
I had already voted because they opened voting online. I don't know if I should. I didn't want to double vote. Voter fraud.
Oh shoot! Illegal. Get him back where it came from.
So I don't know if my vote would have counted more had I gone through the media voting avenue as opposed to just they opened vote for your fan voting for your award. So I don't know. But I said I had voted in some way. So I largely agree with the results. So we'll talk about it.
Good.
But my question for you, good sir, is as a man of the theater, do you have your tickets to Wicked yet?
The movie? No.
The movie? No. Are you excited for this? Because my timeline's been blowing up.
Listen, I'm not a theater nerd. There are people who enjoy doing theater.
Mm-hmm.
Not everyone that does theater is a theater geek. You know what I mean?
You weren't a theater kid in high school?
I wasn't, man. I was I was in the choir and stuff like that, but I played all the sports growing up. So I didn't quite start getting bigger roles in theater till college and stuff. And
yeah,
I didn't even do theater in high school. So
yeah,
Wicked, I'm sure it's going to be fantastic. I saw the show live in Chicago.
Mm-hmm.
Can't even tell you if I remember it or I don't. I get it. I don't know what songs are in it. I know this is blasphemy. Anyone who's a theater person is going to be like, this is out of control. This is outrageous.
I do enjoy some Wicked. I saw it when it was in LA on tour in 2009. That was the last time I saw it. I haven't seen it since then. But yeah, I had some cousins who were very much theater people. I remember in 2005, 6, something like that. I mean, the show came out in 2003. It's been 21 years. It's been a long time, but I remember hearing the album and I was like, okay, I can get with this, and saw the show, a handful of years later. And so I still know most, if not all the songs. So I'm looking forward to seeing part 1 because they're making it a 2-part thing. It's going to be split out over 2 movies across a year. So
I will say Ariana Grande was hosting SNL this past weekend and she was phenomenal. She did so many voices and impressions, and I was like, this girl is so talented, and I'm very excited to see her in Wicked.
I haven't seen all of the SNL, and the one sketch I saw was when it was she was a bridesmaid, and she and the other bridesmaids were singing the parody espresso song at the wedding, but it's just talking about how the bride's cheating throughout the whole bachelorette party.
100%.
Yeah. So, but yeah, Wicked. What's interesting is because the runtime of the actual Wicked show, including intermission, it's a little over 3 hours. The first act, I think they said, is 1 hour 40. This first movie is a 2 hour and 40 minute runtime, just part 1. And if you look at the track listing that they released for this movie, it's identical to the track listing for the first act of the musical. So they're going to, I mean, I don't know if there's a book that was written that I've never read, but apparently is vastly different and like very graphically sexual. So I don't know if they're going to draw from that to fill in some of the gaps or what, but I don't know. I'm interested.
You mentioned this was so long ago when this show came out, and it's like, dude, there's an order of operations in the way things go.
Mm-hmm.
A show gets made.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of times it does some off Broadway, then goes to Broadway, and then if they're lucky, they have a huge run, and then maybe a revival down the road. But like then it
tour somewhere. Yeah,
there's a U.S. tour, international tour, and then only after the tours are completely done, or it's not touring anywhere near these places, but then like high schools and community theaters can grab the rights. And Wicked, to my knowledge, has never stopped touring. And the rights are like, I'm just convinced they will never be available. Anyone who's ever wanted to audition for Wicked has like aged out of the role they wanted because they've been waiting forever.
It's been 21 years. Yeah, they're doing a tour through next year. Although it's funny that the point of the tour that they're at, it's like, yeah, they're still doing like the LA stop for a month and the Chicago or whatever. But like I was looking at it and it's like they're doing like a 3-week run in Boise, Idaho, and then like Tulsa, Oklahoma. So like they've hit their major mark, because like the first like U.S. tours like Miami, L.A., Chicago, San Francisco, Seattle, Dallas, like the big cities, and like but they've done 2 or 3 tours now, so they're starting to hit some of the smaller markets. But I don't know. I'm excited. I'm not a theater guy per se, but I can appreciate musicals quite a bit, and there are some shows where I hear the albums and I'm like, damn, these are really cool. And Wicked for me has been one of those albums where one of those soundtracks where I think it's just so creative in the different styles of music and everything. I'm a big music fan, so I'm looking forward to it. And I love Cynthia Erivo. I think she's fantastic.
Oh, sure.
She as Elphaba will be great.
I think I'm just a bit of a narcissist. I love being in the stuff. I love being on stage and entertaining. But I don't always go to all the stuff. You know what I mean? It doesn't really interest me. Even some like smaller shit. Like some people will go just to like support the theater and stuff. And me, I'm kind of like, it's not really, doesn't sound fun. Maybe that makes me a dick. I don't know.
Is there a show that like you've always wanted to be in, but you've never been in, but like if it came to like Topeka, you'd be like, that's the show I want to be in? Or have you already done that show? Maybe.
I mean, I've done a few. Like Rock of Ages was a big one. That was fun.
Yeah.
Shit, I don't know, man. That's a good question.
Like, would you do like Rocky Horror Picture Show? Like if you ever got the opportunity?
I've already been in it. I was Eddie in that shit.
Little Shop of Horrors.
I was in it.
Wait to see.
I would love to be a little older.
Gotcha.
See, that would be dope. But also, I think that's going to be another one that's never going to be available for people to do, because it will just constantly be touring and then like movies and whatever else. So
yeah, I heard that my cousin was just telling me that she knows of a high school in Oregon that's trying to do Hadestown as like a high school production, and apparently it's like a very complex, complicated show. I haven't seen it, but I don't know. When high schools start trying to do some of these shows, it gets a little wonky at times. But
yeah, I mean, the thing is, you can see some pretty great shows though at high school, at community theater. Like they have limited resources, but you've been to Topeka Civic Theater and you've seen the talented shit we put on, and like they don't have money to do the shit Broadway can, and it's still amazing. Yeah, no, it's very cool. So I don't know. I just it's been all over the timeline on TikTok and whatnot because they released the trailer. So I'm looking forward to it. Was curious your thoughts. I'm going to definitely see it in theaters. The music's great. I mean, yeah, I'll definitely see it in theaters. Also ready to go see Terrifier 3.
I don't know what that is, but it sounds like I would not like it.
Bro, you would hate it. I watched I watched Terrifier 1 and 2 this weekend, and I was like, oh God, this thing is just murdering people for the sake of murdering. Look up Terrifier, dude. The clown is just crazy.
Oh, I've seen the weird ass like black and white face clown. Yeah. Okay.
And there's some comedy to it too. Like there are some moments where I like laughed, but most of all, it's just gore. And I'm like, oh, and the effects. Like it's like they have low budget, but the effects are freaking great, So
see, I don't like gore. I saw It and It 2, and those didn't bother me because clown. Like I can't. clowns don't scare me all that much, but they weren't obscenely gory.
No, this is gory, and that's what they do. Theaters have been offering like barf bags when people sit down, and people have been like leaving, and I'm like, I can't imagine being in a movie and being like, I gotta go.
I like that's the type of stuff that would sit with me, and I wouldn't be able to get it out of my brain.
But it does sit with you because Marissa had plans to go see a show later that night, so I was home alone, and I was like, motherfucker, I'm getting murdered. So what was that noise?
You're hearing like house popping noises, and you're like, someone's here.
And why do houses pop in general? Just to scare the pants off us, dude.
Yeah.
I'm like, my house is just falling into the ground. That's great.
I'm so glad you said this. We will talk about soccer in a minute. I had this exact conversation with somebody the other day because I'm in a new house, like it's been a couple months. Yeah. And like, the house I lived in before, I was in there for like 6 years. You get used to the sounds. You're used to what happened. And you move into a new house, you're like, what was that? What was that? And then I'm looking in my basement. And I'm like, okay, I'm not seeing any cracks in the walls. I'm not seeing anything, but I have this irrational fear that like there's going to be a popping sound and my house is just going to crumble in on itself.
Like tremors.
Right.
Like,
and I was talking to somebody and they were like, that's not how houses work. And I was like, you don't know. We're not structural engineers.
That's not how houses work. Don't condescend to me, sir. Tell me how houses work. Holy shit.
I'm glad
that's true. She got home and I was like, I heard the door open and I go, babe.
What did you had left and came back dressed as the clown from Terrifier?
Well, then she's going to get punched in the face accidentally. Like I'm going to fight.
Oh boy. Yeah. I'm not seeing Terrifier.
I'll let you know.
The spookiest thing I'm going to watch, which I haven't watched yet, but the spookiest thing I'm going to watch this season is Agatha All Along.
It's not that spooky.
Well, it's spooky enough.
There are moments where I'm like, oh, damn, this is kind of scary.
Yeah, that's my speed. So that's what I will be watching. Anyway,
the channel, the old Sanderson sisters.
That's right. Is that and Mr. McMahon? That's what has been keeping my time. So
that's pretty scary too.
Yeah, in a different way. But yes, I'm through 3 episodes, so it's
nothing no one didn't already know. If you're a wrestling fan, it's not breaking ground here.
I think the funniest thing to me is just like how much of a ride or die Hulk Hogan is with Vince McMahon, like no matter what, and how much Bret Hart just absolutely hates Vince McMahon with his entire soul.
Right. And Goldberg.
Yeah. So, anyway, let's, why don't we just go ahead and take a break here and then we'll jump into some PC stuff when we get back. But we'll be right back.
Looking for tickets for your next event? Tickets for Less is your #1 source. Save big on every purchase when you use promo code KCSN at ticketsforless.com. I love a great deal as much as the next guy, but I shouldn't have to jump through flaming hoops just to save a few bucks. Saving money should be easy with no BS. So when Mint Mobile said it was easy to get wireless for just $15 a month with a purchase of a 3-month plan, I had to call them on it. And it turns out it really is just that easy. At Mint Mobile, you can get $15 a month with a 3-month plan of premium wireless service. The longest part of the process with Mint Mobile was the time I spent on hold trying to cut my old provider. So to get started, go to mintmobile.com/KCSNNOP. There, you'll see that right now, Mint Mobile has 3-month plans for only $15 a month, including the unlimited plan. And all plans come with high-speed data and unlimited talk and text on the nation's largest 5G network. So you can find out how easy it is to switch to Mint Mobile and get 3 months of premium wireless service for just $15 a month. To get this new customer offer and a new 3-month premium wireless plan for just $15 a month, go to mintmobile.com/KCSNNOP. That's mintmobile.com/KCSNNOP. Cut your wireless bill to $15 a month at mintmobile.com/KCSNNOP. $45 upfront payment required, equivalent to $15 per month. New customers on first 3-month plan only. Speed slower above 40 gigabytes unlimited plan. Additional taxes, fees, and restrictions apply. See Mint Mobile for details.
Not gonna see Terrifier 3, huh? But it's that or Joker 2, which, by the way, no good.
Yeah, no, I have no interest. I didn't like Joker 1. So
Joker 1.
I have no interest in seeing Joker 2. I still got to see The Wild Robot. So that's what I got to see.
And by that, they're making
on the heartstrings
of that.
I know.
But Joker 2, man, I walked out of there going, yeah, it's as bad as they say. And Marissa goes, it's not that bad. And I said, why do you like bad movies? What is going on?
Is there a movie that like she loves that you're like, this is terrible, like a specific one? Or
there's been numerous stuff we walk out of where I'm like, that needs more action. And she's like, oh, that's why I liked it. because there was no action.
Because there was nothing going on. Yeah.
It's just weird. We're different.
I generally don't. Like, if I see a movie, like, more often than not, I can find something I enjoy about the movie. Like, very rarely do I come out of a movie and I was like, that was bad. The last one I came out of that I was like, I did not like that movie. I actively disliked that movie was Ant-Man and the Wasp: Quantumania. Did not like that movie. Yeah.
I'm really enjoying, since we're just talking about all things media, The Penguin.
Okay.
I'm having a blast. It is a great show.
Okay. That's Colin Farrell. Is that right?
Yes, but you wouldn't know it.
Right.
So good.
Yeah. Okay. Maybe I'll check that out.
You definitely should.
I have a whole list of things to catch up on. Like, I got to finish Mr. McMahon. Then I got to watch Inside Out 2, because I've never seen that yet. That's on Disney Plus now. I have to catch up on the latest season of Only Murders in the Building, because I haven't watched that yet either. So, Agatha all along. But
all that stuff. I'm way ahead of you, bro.
I know.
I have no life.
Let's talk soccer for a little bit here. The biggest news to come out of Sporting Kansas City this week is last Thursday, October 10th, they announced the Sporting Kansas City 2024 Sporting Club Award recipients. And votes were cast by players, fans, media, etc. And some of these were to be expected. Spoiler alert, Tim Melia won Save of the Year. I don't know if you saw that one coming. But
I mean, when you play a majority of the games at one position, I think that's a given.
Yeah. Pulscamp got in there here and there, but, whatever. I just laugh when it's like Save of the Year, Tim Melia. And I'm like, oh, interesting. I'm more interested to know what save, which we'll talk about. But the thing that I was, I think, most happy about, that this was my thought, and I'm glad that the voters at large agreed. I don't know if I've seen anywhere like a breakdown of what the vote was by like players, media, fans, etc. But most valuable player, none other than young Jake Davis.
How wild is that?
I'm so glad. This was 100%, I think, the deserved player for MVP this year, without question.
Yeah, but like you wouldn't think of that. You know what I mean? Like, he flies under the radar, and then when he's announced, it's like, oh yeah, sure.
He doesn't have the eye-popping goals, the goals that he scored were eye-catching. But I mean, like, he's not out there scoring 10, 15 goals a year. He doesn't have 10 or 15 assists. Like, if you were to just purely look at the stat line for Jake Davis this year, you're like, okay, he played 27 games, 200 minutes, 3 goals, 5 assists. Okay, 83% pass percentage. You're like, yeah, that's fine. Which, one, for a bunch of his appearances, close to half, if not more, he was playing right back. So yeah, he's not going to be a giant goal scoring machine. And then he's shifted over into the midfield once our midfield was decimated. But the reason this makes me happy is because that means that the people who were voting on this, whether it be, obviously the players, but the fans and the media, didn't fall into that trap that sometimes, voters fall into, of like, okay, well, who scored the most goals, or who had the most goals plus assists? Jake Davis did things that don't necessarily appear on the stat sheet, but truly, when you think about the definition of a valuable player, if you take Jake Davis off of this 2024 Sporting Kansas City team, you thought the season was bad as it is. It's noticeably worse without a guy like Jake Davis on this team. He makes this team absolutely better when he's on the field.
22 years old, youngest player to win this award on the team, second Academy product, right after Daniel Shallowy. Just pretty cool, man, and congrats to him. Couldn't happen to a better guy who's been working so hard and is going to be around for a minute,
Yeah, my fear with you always want to see young Academy products like him, develop and get this good. The thing that obviously is the fear is like, okay, now at what point is Europe going to come calling, or at what point is those transfer rumors going to start heating up? Because if he continues to play at this level into next season, I would not be surprised if summer, winter 2025, you start hearing interest from championship sides or Italian sides or Spanish sides. Italian sides in particular, whether it be, Buzio or a couple of the other younger Tessman, younger American midfielders, they've gone to Europe, whether it be Serie A or Serie B, and had some success. So I want all the success in the world for Jake Davis, and if his dream is to go play in a bigger league, I love that for him. It's the catch-22 of soccer that you don't really have to worry about in, NFL or baseball. Like, once you get to an NFL team, even if it's not, a major market, you're on, I don't know, the Green Bay Packers. There's not as much of an incentive to be like, well, I need to move to a New York team or a Chicago team or an LA team. You're like, I've already made it to the highest level. Right. This is that catch-22 of soccer where it's like, you want your players to be good, but when they get too good, then say your goodbyes.
Yeah.
But I'm really proud of Jake Davis, and the fact that he's only 22 years old is very cool. Offensive Player of the Year, Eric Tommy. I think this is probably correct in my opinion too. I mean, if you look at goals plus assists, he's sitting there at 11. Polito technically has one more. Willie Agata technically has one more. But I don't know. I think just
he does the things that they don't do.
Right.
I mean, he's very important to our team, dude. And every time Eric was out of the lineup, I remember being very scared.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. Eric technically has more expected goals per sportingkc.com than Alan Polito. What's wild is, I mean, it's not surprising when you really think about it, because think of all the times that Willie Agata has had shots on goal or opportunities on goal, and he's just put it wide and missed the target. Willie's got 9 goals this year. His XG, according to sportingkc.com, 15.32. So he's 6 goals under what is expected for him this year. So when you're scoring at a rate that's so far under what's expected, I don't think, even if you're the Golden Boot winner, I don't think you can be given Offensive Player of the Year. So Eric Tommy, definitely the engine that ran things. Defensive Player of the Year, again, Tim Melia. I think it's unusual a little bit that a goalkeeper wins Defensive Player of the Year, but
not in this case, because our defense was all over the place. Right. We never had a consistent back line.
There were so many. I want to say there was something like 37 different unique lineups this year across all competitions for Sporting KC. I mean, it was absurd. So, and some of that might be like, oh, you have the same outfield and then Pulse camps in, or you have everybody's the same except one, fullback or whatever. But I mean, when you think of who the defenders were, there wasn't really any standout defender who stayed healthy to be able to win this award. It had to be Tim.
Yeah.
So, and then this is the one that I think is interesting. Newcomer of the year, Zoran Basong. He definitely started getting some more time later in the year. If you would have asked me, through the first half of the year, I think I probably would have said Memo Rodriguez. He started off real hot, but he then got hurt and hasn't really been playing much as of late. So it kind of is what it is. And then if you look at the goal of the year, again, Eric Tommy, it came against Miami. It actually tied the game against Miami in the 58th minute. It was off a corner kick. Suarez tried to clear the ball off of his head. It fell to Eric Tommy near the top of the box. And Eric Tommy, as he's known to do, off of his right foot, just off the volley, right past Calendar, off the inside of the post into the net. At the time, it tied the game against the most famous team in MLS in Arrowhead Stadium. Understand why it's goal of the year. I'm not going to argue with it. I mean, Jake Davis maybe had a shout with his goal.
Because I think it also, sure, the goal was everything, but look at the environment.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I was there. It was crazy.
Mm-hmm.
It's just something we didn't experience at all. We just one time this year, man. So if you got a chance to go, you experience something special, unless you were loyal to your brother.
I know. Still mad at him. But you're right. I mean, it's the emotion of that match. It's the environment of that match. It's the Messi of the match, and knowing that, okay, they're down 1. It's the second half, and then Tommy ties it. We're not giving in to we're down to Lionel Messi and friends. It's understandably deserved for Eric Tommy. And then save of the year was Tim Melia in July against the Colorado Rapids. It was a save to his right off of a point blank header. And again, I mean, this is Melia doing Melia things. He's just a reactionary goalkeeper who, can earn you points that you probably shouldn't get. And so, it'll be interesting to see what happens with him and his contract situation this year.
Exactly.
So, but yeah, congrats to all the winners. There were some others, the Golden Boot, obviously, William Agata, and then Humanitarian of the Year, Johnny Russell, SKC2 Most Valuable Players, Sebastian Cruz, Academy Player of the Year. I'm going to butcher his name, Cielo Chantret, and then Sporting Club Network Member of the Year, Sporting Arkansas. So congratulations, Sporting Arkansas. Now, I guess, because we have to, we turn our attention to the final game of this year. Nothing can happen that will change anything for Sporting Kansas City. We can win this game, and we cannot move from 13th to 12th place. We can lose this game, and we cannot move from 13th to 14th place. We are stuck in 13th place in the Western Conference. The final, or the playoffs are locked for the Western Conference in terms of clubs who are in the playoffs. There's some things for seeding that can move around, but Dallas, they are eliminated. They can jump up to 10th and surpass Austin, who fired Josh Wolf last week. They can fall to 12th and fall behind St. Louis, depending on results. But this is just for shits and giggles, honestly. So I don't know. Dallas and Kansas City, the last three matches, Sporting KC has actually won. We've beat them twice this year, once in the Open Cup and once in MLS Play, and then and then back in May of 2023. Those are the last three times that we've won the all-time series. Sporting KC has 36 wins, Dallas has 31, and there's 14 draws. So I don't know. I mean, it's decision day. The excitement probably isn't there for Sporting KC for decision day, but what are you just hoping to get out of this match, I guess, if anything?
I mean, dude, I'm more looking at other matches because there's some drama across the league. So, I mean, at this match, hey, you guys go out, have fun, kick a ball around, nothing. I'm going to watch, obviously,
right.
But nothing's on the line. Let's just go have a good little pickup game.
Everybody have fun. Don't get hurt.
But, if I can divert the situation real quick, man, Inter Miami, if they win at home, they set the all-time regular season points record. Mm-hmm. Is that not interesting? I mean,
it is. And they're playing a New England team that is not good. So it's a very, very real possibility that Miami may set a new all-time single-season points record.
NYCFC can move into a top four situation. Mm-hmm. DC United controls their own destiny, man. They just need 1 point against Charlotte to get into the playoffs. Mm-hmm. So they draw and they're in.
There's a lot of drama in the Eastern Conference. NYCFC can move up. Montreal, again, same thing. They get 1 point off NYCFC and they earn a playoff spot. Philadelphia and Atlanta are sitting below the playoff line currently right now, but they have the possibility of moving up into a playoff spot depending on what happens. Philadelphia, they are hosting Cincinnati, which is obviously going to be a very difficult team. And Atlanta is going on the road against Orlando. Again, another top four side. So there's all sorts of drama, like you said, in the Eastern Conference.
A little more drama out in LA, though. I mean, Galaxy just need 1 point to lock up number one seed. But if they lose and LAFC wins their game, LAFC jumps and gets that number one seed. Mm-hmm. So, I mean, an LA team should get number one seed here. It's interesting.
Yeah, and again, the Galaxy on the road at Houston. We know how frustrating Houston can be as a place to play. And then LAFC
on the road.
LAFC's at home against the wooden spoon San Jose Earthquakes. So
if you had to choose one of those LA teams that you'd like to see win the Western Conference, it's tough, right? Because you don't really like either of them.
Yeah. Oh gosh.
Like, look at their players. I mean, they both have huge players.
I think I choose LAFC because I like Ilya, and Ilya is on LAFC. And the Galaxy,
they've come back. Like, they've had a couple down years here and there.
They have
to be back in the conversation's interesting because LAFC's never been out of the conversation.
No,
amen.
Yeah, ever since they joined the league in 2018, they've been a powerhouse of a team. So that's why I'm like, I don't really feel great about choosing LAFC. But the Galaxy, they've had a down, handful of years. They've been competitive here and there, but just historically, they're such, they're the all-time winningest club in MLS in terms of championships and such. Like, I don't necessarily want to hear more of that from Galaxy fans. So I don't know. I probably would choose LAFC just because it'd make LA happy, and if LA is happy, then I'm happy. But I don't know.
Do you think
drama?
I mean, Benteke also, I'm just shifting gears here again. Benteke on DC United pretty much has the golden boot wrapped up, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Cucho Hernandez or Dennis Buyanga would have to score 4 goals in their game
to tie him.
Yeah, to tie. So,
yeah,
it's DC United's got that one.
Yeah, Christian Benteke, 23 goals. I mean, Lucho Acosta for FC Cincinnati, he's probably got the most assists. He's got 19 assists on the year. He's looking for his 20th assist. He's got 4 more than the next most, which are Robin Lod and Ryan Gauld. He's also got the most key passes on the year. So, but also then Denny Bouanga, tons of shots and shots on target. The MLS MVP race, it should be very interesting. I mean, you could make cases for Benteke, you could make cases for Bouanga, you could make cases for Lucho Acosta, you could make cases for Cucho Hernandez, but we all know who's probably going to win it, and he's played half of the games that he probably could have played this year. It's going to be Lionel Messi. I don't see any way that it's not Lionel Messi, right?
I don't think so. It's dumb.
Yeah.
It's dumb. I hate it.
I mean, it's frustrating because, I mean, I haven't fact checked this in a couple of weeks, but at least a couple of weeks ago, Inter Miami had a higher points per game when Messi was not playing than when he was playing. And so if you were to take, again, as we were talking about with Jake Davis, the literal definition of most valuable player, your team has got a better points per game without you than with you. How can you be the most valuable player? That's quite the opposite of the definition of the award. But, 17 goals and 15 assists through 1,400 minutes. Those are pretty eye-popping numbers. To have 32 goals plus assists in 1,400 minutes, that's stupid. That doesn't even make sense. So it is what it is. But yeah. So I don't know. I mean, it's decision day. There will be plenty of drama that happens, even if it doesn't involve Sporting Kansas City or the majority of the Western Conference. At the top of the Western Conference, like you said, sure, there can be some shifting around. And in the East, there's going to be all the craziness of who's getting what spot. But so if you're an MLS fan, it's still going to be a fun day.
Sure. Yeah, 100%.
But it's just not going to involve Sporting KC. And then we move into the off-season calendar. They just announced some of these dates, and I forgot that there's an expansion draft this offseason because San Diego FC is coming into the league next year. It's going to be the 30th team. They're going to join the Western Conference. So there's an MLS expansion draft on December 11th where San Diego FC can select up to 5 current MLS players. So we'll go through the whole choose who you want to protect, blah, 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 blah. I have zero heartburn this offseason about if any Sporting Kansas City players were selected. In years past, yeah, I've been like, who are we? Got the puzzle pieces that are trying to figure out who are we protecting. Not so much this year.
Exactly.
It just feels like, hey, if you want to, but it's almost like, please take somebody off of our hands, and at least then we don't have to worry about him anymore. But MLS expansion draft December 11th, free agency begins December 12th, and then the super draft December 20th. So, there's all sorts of stuff. December 9th, there's that weird MLS half-day trade window that opens up that Sporting have done things in a couple of times, but it's typically not a major day. And then there's the re-entry drafts and all sorts of crazy drafts that MLS has, but getting to that off-season time. So,
getting to be it, man. I'm excited to be a little bit of a playoffs podcast. We're not in the playoffs, so we'll be able to have some fun with that.
Yeah,
in the weeks to come. But it is what it is, man. Fun time this year. Very frustrating.
Yeah,
but we got to move on.
Yeah. Outside of MLS, just to touch on this real quick, the biggest news in soccer is the U.S. men's national team is officially in the Mauricio Pochettino era. They had their first game under Pochettino. They had their first sets of practices under Pochettino. The first reporting about what it's like under Pochettino is coming out, and there are a couple of things I want to point out that I think is just kind of funny, and get your thoughts on. Of course, MLS and U.S. soccer, they're closely tied together. So you're not going to see anything on MLSsoccer.com that is overly critical of Mauricio Pochettino, especially now. It's going to be all hype pieces. But there's an article that Charles Boehm wrote about the intensity under Mauricio Pochettino, with quotes from Brendan Aronson saying, we've really rehashed the intensity of what we want to play. And Josh Sargent says anything we do, whether it be with the ball or against the ball, he wants it to be intense. But there's a quote from Tim Ream that I thought was interesting, where he said, quote, "We were out on the field today for 2 hours, which is probably the longest session I've had with the national team in my 14 years. Do you think it's weird that in 14 years of playing with the U.S. men's national team, Tim Ream has never had a manager who's had a 2-hour practice? Doesn't that seem kind of standard?"
I mean, yeah, I thought practices were normally a couple hours.
Right. It was
just sounds like coaches been phoning it in, man.
Well, that's what I'm just like, and I'm not sitting here pretending like I know the ins and outs of what it means to be a U.S. men's national team manager. I know international management is different than club management. Like, you're not trying to really make the players like learn new skills or whatnot. But when you have such limited time with these players and you're trying to build chemistry in a short period of time, you'd feel like you'd take advantage of as much time as you possibly can in the windows that you have them. And for an experienced player like Ream to come out, and I was not the only one who was surprised by this. There were a lot of people who were like, hold on, what? 2 hours is the longest you've ever practiced? So I don't know. I thought that was interesting. And then the U.S. men's national team went on in their first game under Mauricio Pochettino, and they beat Panama in a friendly 2-0. Yunus Musa scored in the 49th minute, and then Ricardo Pepi, formerly of FC Dallas, scored in the stoppage time of the second half. So, I mean, hey, you won his first game against Panama, a team that has made it difficult for the U.S. men's national team and under previous regimes at times. But my most favorite thing that happened, young Mr. Gianluca Buzio got the start in the first ever game under Mauricio Pochettino, which is just kind of cool. I'm happy for him.
Yeah. So, dude's still making a name for himself, being a part of the conversation.
He played well. I mean, he only played 67 minutes. He got subbed off. But, I mean, that's also when Christian Pulisic was subbed off. Josh Sargent was subbed off. Anthony Robinson was subbed off. So this was playing subs. But if you look at FOTMob and you look at player ratings, which, it's not the end-all be-all, but Buzio had a very solid game. 43 of 46 accurate passes, so 93%. He created 2 chances, had a blocked shot, 53 touches, 3 out of 3 accurate long balls, had a tackle. He won 75% of his ground duels. For, again, 22 years old, he and Jake Davis, same age. And by the way, Jake, one of these days, is going to get a U.S. men's national team, senior team look, maybe sooner than later. But I'm just happy that Buzio's still in this picture. And you know what? Even though it's not a Sporting KC game, I think my holiday distillery toast of the match this week, Gianluca Buzio, for his performance with the U.S. men's national team. There we go. Congrats to the former Sporting KC man. Now their next game is Tuesday night against Mexico. You can watch it on TNT or on Max. It's a 9:30 Central kickoff in Mexico. But this feels like, Mexico's had some ups and downs, but to kick off the Pochettino era, I feel like they probably need to go down there and have a good showing and hopefully beat Mexico, right? Like, keep this excitement going. You want to beat your biggest rival, especially on their home turf.
Oh, yeah, for sure.
I think that's definitely something that they need to do. So if you want to watch that game, we don't know, obviously, if the starters are going to be anything yet or not. Maybe Buzio gets the start again, but that'll be on Tuesday night. The most interesting thing I think I've seen, though, come out of the Pochettino era, quote unquote, thus far, is he had this quote that I think is probably going to upset a number of U.S. men's national team fans. Like, I want to read it to you and get your thoughts, because I'm sure we've all seen on Twitter the U.S. men's national team fans that just shit on MLS left and right. They're like, we don't want any MLS players in the roster. We'd rather have somebody playing for the fourth, Belgian division because it's in Europe than starting for an MLS team. Well, here's a quote from Mauricio Pochettino, who many U.S. fans wanted as coach because he's coached Chelsea, he's coached Tottenham, he's coached at the highest levels of the game. He goes, quote, "There are many American players who are in Europe and don't play much and who don't compete. And then there are other players who are in MLS or in a different league that do compete. Perhaps those players are in better shape to perform than the players who don't compete weekly. We are seeing today great players like Lionel Messi are competing in MLS, and for us, I think that is something important to convey, that MLS is a competitive league and that competing in MLS, you can also be in the United States national team. I think we have to believe in that the players who are competing in MLS will also have the opportunity to be able to demonstrate their talent in the national team." That's pretty cool because that feels like a different philosophy than what's happened under the last couple managers, and that we're not just discounting players just because they are in Major League Soccer. So
yeah, agreed.
That means somebody like Jake Davis, who's getting consistent playing time, might start getting more looks. That means, who I feel bad for, honestly, who this could have helped, this mentality? Tim Melia. The fact that Tim Melia never got a single U.S. men's national team cap or call-up seems criminal, considering the lackluster goalkeepers we've had since Tim Howard. It's just really frustrating.
It is. It happens. I'm sure he's a little upset about it too, but what can you do?
Yeah.
He would never tell you.
It does make me funny because the very first reply to that tweet is from a Twitter account whose Twitter name says USMNT Truth, and its handle is @Freedom Soccer, and it just says, "Oh, for fuck's sake, #Potch out." So it makes me funny that there are a segment of U.S. soccer fans that despise Major League Soccer with every fiber of their being and just refuse to acknowledge that, hey, some of the most successful teams we've had make runs in the World Cup were made up of largely MLS players.
Yeah.
So, I don't know. That's mostly what I got this week. In a week with no games, that's about all I got. You got anything else for our good listeners this week?
That's about it, man. Enjoy decision day. It's going to be a little chaotic. It always is. So, nothing on the line for our game, but some other stuff to watch. Could be fun.
Yeah, we'll be back next week. We'll talk about what happened in the game. See if I can get Peter to answer some of the questions that I asked him last week that he did not want to answer until after the season was done. So,
more power to you.
I'm going to try again. I'm trying to decide if I want to ask him in the post-game presser, or they always do like an end-of-season press conference. So I feel like there's a decent chance if I ask him immediately in the Dallas post-game, especially if they lose, he's going to be like, "I'm not thinking about that right now," and he's going to make me come back a week later at the end-of-season press conference. But we'll see. But yeah, if you guys have any thoughts as to what are you thinking about the MLS Cup playoffs? Are you picking a team that you want to see make a run in the playoffs? Or if you have any ideas of what you want us to do for some off-season content, let us know. You can always text us at the KCSN hotline powered by Mint Mobile, 913-407-6524. Send us your questions. Send us what you want us to do in the off-season. Send us who you're rooting for in the MLS Cup playoffs. That's the KCSN hotline powered by Mint Mobile, 913-407-6524. But that's about all we got this week. So thank you all so much for listening. Make sure you leave us that 5-star rating and review wherever you listen to your podcast. Make sure you follow us on Twitter and Instagram at NoOtherPod, at Dan Kooser, at JCMac03. Check us out, KCSN Soccer on YouTube or via the Kansas City Sports Network app, or shoot us an email, nootherpod@gmail.com. But until next time, he's Dan. I'm Jimmy. We'll catch y'all later. See ya.
The season of pain comes to an end.